Okay, should I start? I did not hear the intro. I mean, the usual signals. Yeah, I cannot hear very well. It's all. I'm gonna go to the chat and you can give me a message on the. It's that's what I hear. Okay, now I can hear something.
Is that better, Liliane?
Yes, now that's fine.
Okay, good.
Okay. All right. Good morning and welcome to Great Tree Zen Women's Temple. Liliane, and her talk is called Finding Balance in Times of Transition. Following from Hey Joe, would you please do the opening sutra?
Right. Just a second. Are you sure? She can't hear.
Yes, I can hear. I
Anne
can
can't.
now.
Anne says she can't hear.
It's intermittently
Yeah, that's
clear
what I
and
had too.
blurry. You know, it's you go underwater and then you come back again.
Which one is it? It's just the speak.
Drops down, drops, and then goes down. Is that part of the
Maybe we should
problem?
take it off of the blue. After that. Try this. Is this better?
Yeah.
And
Okay. Yes. Anne's
Okay.
shaking her head.
all right.
Okay.
We're
I think I was going to chant.
you're gonna chant,
Well,
yeah.
we're all going to chant. And surpass penetrating and rarely met with, even in 100,000 million kalpas. Can listen to, remember and accept. I vow to taste the truth of the.
And now a short message on Dana. In Buddhism, when Zen practitioners share their understanding of the teachings and practice, it is offered freely as the practice of Dana Paramita. Dana is a Pali word that means generosity. Practice is done without expectation of getting something in return. This is the spirit of speaking about the Dharma. Practice Dana is to offer support to those who share the teachings, to support places of spiritual practice, and education when opportunity arises. Those who share the teachings of Great Tree do so on a Dana basis, what you can. And Liliane, do you have a place you'd like to have Dana go to?
Great tree.
Go to greattreetemple.org and use the donate path. All right. And now, stomach and spleen health and challenges with Dr. Liliane Myoren. Liliane is a Franco-American writer and teacher of Chinese medicine, which she describes as an ecological medicine. She practices and teaches acupuncture, herbology, Qigong, and dietary therapy. Or good afternoon, Liliane.
Hello. Thank you. All right. So hello, everybody. It's nice to be with you. It's very hot here. I don't know on your side of the Atlantic. Yes, unusually hot for this time of year. And it's a bit strange because talk about time of transition. Here we had a summer that was quite cool, all in all. And at the end of August, it seemed like we were already in the fall. And suddenly, a last heat wave, and it's a serious one. I think just like you, right? Yeah, I see some heads nodding. All right, so let's go and see what we can extract from the season in terms of teachings to help us walk our walk on Earth. And I'm going to come back for just a minute because I know for those of you who have listened to some of these talks with me before, you know that by heart, but still it's a good reminder. So I'm going to share the screen. Let's see. Let me see if I can do that. Oh, I can't.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll make you into a
Okay.
Okay, Liliane, try it now.
All right. Let me see if I can. Yes. The beauty of technology. Let me see. All right. Can you see this?
yeah.
Yes. All right. So again, this will be very short, just to see where we are in this little map that I have great affection for. That I think it helps me a lot. So we hear fire, but we're transitioning into this energy, right, of Earth, which is right now where we are. September is the beginning of that. And so that's where we are. There's another model, though, of these energies where the Earth, instead of being where we saw it, is in the center. So meaning that at the end of each season, we come back to the Earth. That's a time of transition from one season to another. So that's another model. One way of looking at it is, of course, we are earthlings and we live on Earth. So meaning that everything we experience relates to the Earth. We don't live on Venus or Mars. So that's our center, that's our home. And then the four directions, of course, are on the Earth. So that's another model. But what is interesting in this is to see that the Earth is at the center. And if we come back to this one, that you know, this is where we are. And so, as you know, there's an energy. So that's Earth energy that's associated with some emotions and some qualities of empathy. So compassion, for example, would be particularly important here. And I'll come back to that. It's the spleen and stomach. That's Earth energy, meaning that we are earthlings and we are made of Earth, and to live on Earth, we need to feed ourselves from what the Earth gives us. So, and as you see, that's a transition point from summer going deeper slowly toward the winter. So just keep that in mind. This is where we are. I'm going to stop that. All right. So can you see me okay?
You're still on screen share.
Ah, okay, maybe yes, I did not stop that. All right. So as you know, especially from practicing at Great Tree, most traditions all traditions actually have rituals to mark the time and the seasons. And we tend to forget about this in our modern world. And our rituals, if we celebrate them, become fairly empty of meaning. So I like to look at each month, actually, not only the seasons, and see what they hold. And September is a very interesting month. It's a huge month, actually, of transition. So, of course, on the 21st of September, we'll come to the official end of summer and beginning on the solar calendar and beginning of autumn. We also have many important celebrations around the world. For example, in the Jewish tradition, it's the time of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur being a celebration of forgiveness and repentance, and Rosh Hashanah being the beginning of the Jewish year. In Buddhism, in some countries, like in Laos in particular, there are huge mid-autumn celebrations, which is a way of celebrating the fact that in September is a time of abundance. We have the harvest from the summer. And if you go to your local supermarket, or not supermarket, sorry, to your local market, it's pretty amazing because you have all the vegetables, all the fruit, the late ones from summer that are still there, beginning to wane a little bit, and you have the beginning of the fall. So it's really a time of abundance and plenty. So that's part of that earth energy, the fertility of the earth. And of course, also at the end of the month, there is something that's celebrated also in Japan, in China, and in many countries, is a celebration of the big moon, because the way the earth rotates, that's, if we can see the moon, it's the biggest, the most brilliant of the year. So usually people gather around cakes in the shape of the moon and watch the moon. So it's a good thing to put on our calendar, because we forget, we get busy with life, and we are part of this huge cosmic dance. And, we get busy, and we forget. So the new moon is on September 14th this month. And of course, the huge event of September is the Equinox, which happens, I believe, on the 23rd this year. Let me double check that. It can be sometimes on the 21st, but I think this year is a little bit different. So I need to double check. See, even I forget here. The equinox. Well, I will let you double check. It's not the 21st. So it's either the 22nd or the 23rd. So the equinox is that unique time when day and night are of equal distance, equal time. And it's a very unique time in the spring and in the fall, and where things are in balance. And then we start going down further. So what's interesting is, in my observation and what I see around in my profession, is that the equinox is usually a difficult time for people. It's often the beginning of fall diseases, but not only that, whether it's in the spring or in the fall. In the fall, of course, the difference is the descending energy. So it's kind of gives you vertigo. The spring energy is going up. So it's a different challenge. But those times are usually rather difficult to navigate for people. We might think, for example, that winter is harder, but winter is more stable. What is difficult in the equinox time is that back and forth, that kind of holding, like we have here a resurgence of summer. There's often a resurgence of Indian summer. It can be rainy one day and then sunny the other day. It's rather unstable. So, and what it shows, I think, is that the difficulty we have, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, our resistance to change, and those times when we are, where we feel things are changing but are not quite there. And of course, in the fall in particular, you have many people who are afraid of the season to come, of winter to come. And it can be, take the form of financial fears, utility bills, for example, now. It can be the fear of the cold. It can be dreading disease, or, the time of days because there's not as much light. So, and that descending energy is in the Taoist tradition, the yin energy. And I think it's a good illustration, I think, of the collective difficulty we have right now, which is we tend as a human race to enjoy transcendence, going up. We like the high, right? But we don't like as much the down or the going downward. And yet what, all traditions tell us is that you can't have one without the other. And so we tend to want to keep things as they are. And of course, yin, the descending energy in particular, tends to be scary. And like I said, I think it's a good illustration of the challenges that we face as a civilization, because we have, if we look at yin and yang, we can say that yang is really overemphasized. It's, the pyramid, to get to the top of the pyramid. It's to like the high, is to want to be busy, to tend to look at rest or idleness as not okay, right? We are proud to say, oh, I'm so busy. It's a badge of honor. So when really that time of yin invites us to do just the opposite, it's a time to go inward. And those old traditions of celebration, whether it's, in the Celtic world, Buddhist, Jewish, Islam too, as a celebration in September. It's a way to tell us that it's time, it's a new beginning. It's different from the spring, but it is a new beginning. You know, we need to let go of all the activity of summer and to start going inward. One comparison that I would have if we think of human life is I think September in the year is a bit similar to the first gray hair that we find, you know, and where it's, well, it's not quite the cold, it's not quite winter, but it's coming, right? And so September is a good time. And like, you know, in the Jewish tradition, in the Buddhist tradition, where you have all this time, these celebrations of contemplation and celebrating the moon, the change of season, and calling for contemplation and going inward. And again, that's not something that we do easily. In the past, you know, what we call the going back to school, and in France, it's called la rentrée. It's a huge event. And of course, kids are sad because it's the end of vacation and people need to get back to work. So they already, here, you know, I've noticed people in the park, they talk about their past vacation and they're already planning the next one next year. That's a huge phenomenon in France, the vacation phenomenon of summer. And so the September is seen as a rather dreadful month, meaning, oh, that's the end of summer, that's the end of vacation. Some people today are happy because it's not as hot, you know, but because it means being busy, when in fact, in the old days, if we have this time of year going back to school, it's from the rural past of Europe in particular, of course, when all the kids, all the families were busy harvesting, and they wouldn't go to school before everything was finished and, you know, in order. So after that, then you could resume a more leisurely pace and, you know, get ready for times around the fire, sharing stories, sleeping longer. When for us, it has changed. We still have the back to school, but for totally different reason. And so we dread the shortening of days. How many people I hear telling me, oh, you know, the days are going to be shorter. It's night at 5. I don't like that. And if we look, you know, at what I want to say in a more cosmic way, to see that there is wisdom in that rhythm, and that it's a yin time that we all need to go inward. So that time of the first gray hair, or September, is actually a good time of contemplation to see what we have achieved this year and what remains, and also what we need to let go of. You know, just like when we get older, we realize certain dreams we had when we were young are not going to happen, certain ones. Others, on the contrary, take precedence. So September, with the big moon, has the quality of that. It's a good time. You see, if we are coordinated with the season and the months, it's a good time to harvest. And also in a very physical way, you know, to go to the market or to go to our garden, see what there is, and what is in abundance. I know in our garden is summer squash. We have summer squash galore. And so, you know, we cut it and put it in the freezer for soups in the winter. It's a good time to dry plants also in advance of what might happen in the winter and fall. So for example, thyme is a great herb to harvest to help get rid of mucus in the lung and to have on hand in the fall and the winter. Everything there is, all the greens and all the plants, you know, like lemon balm, you name it, all of those are good to harvest and to have ready, dry them and to have ready for the fall and winter. And they are all remedies that can be used. So that's the time of that's the symbol, or that's the characteristic of the month of September with the equinox. And of course, it's a good time for us through our tools of Zen contemplation practices to work on that equanimity, meaning to see if we can accept the descending into the night and not look for the high all the time, to have a certain equanimity, knowing that indeed, you know, problems do occur and will occur. And we tend to want to hold that vision of perfection that we strive for, you know, of perfect health, of perfect days, perfect situations. And I think September and the fall are here with their nostalgia, their particular softness, to remind us that this is not life. This is not the way life works. And, you know, when we talk about climate change and heat, it's that holding on to the power of fire, because summer is fire energy. And so of the light, you know, we want to hold it, and we are more afraid of the night, of death and darkness, because it's more mysterious, it's more unknown, of course, but we are paying a heavy price as earthlings today by our refusal to honor the yin and the descending phase. So developing that equanimity, that's one of the characteristics of September also, that moment of balance between day and night, and to get ready, accept, get prepared and accept going into the fall. And of course, women too are more yin, so they tend to be more, I don't know how to say, I don't want to say receptive, but they tend to have more that emotional quality of yin. Men are more yang, especially in the reproductive organs. And so that's also why in civilization today, you know, there has been a very patriarchal model, and where we tend to not respect the body, the yin of life. You know, we like the yang energy, which of course it's not a question of one is better than the other. It's just that we tend to favor one to the detriment of the other. So Yang is more about transcending a situation, going above. And we tend to be stuck in that. We want to not feel too much. We don't like to be bothered by the body. We don't respect our bodies very much. And of course, this earth time, which is stomach, spleen, it has to do with that natural softness, sweetness of the earth. And our addictions to sweet and diabetes show us that indeed we don't relate well to the earth and to the body. So I'm really struck, I'm sure some of you are too, when you see some incidents such as those that happened on airlines not long ago, where, women, a couple of women were escorted out the plane because they didn't want to hide their breastfeeding. And at the same time, on the video that you watch, you have plenty of murders. You have plenty of detective things and police shows with murders. And that's okay. But a woman breastfeeding, that's not okay. She can do it only if she makes sure nobody sees. And so that's this kind of refusal of yin, of relationship to the body. The only way we tend to relate to the body today, in general, of course, is through like musculation, weight lifting, but the blood, the chaos of the body, the impurity of the body, we're not comfortable with that. For example, when we grieve, when we cry, well, there's plenty of mucus and our eyes, get red. And so there's yin brings out, and of course that's present in birth and death. Yin brings out a messiness that we are very uncomfortable with, blood and flesh. So earth is indeed our blood and flesh. And so we don't relate well to the earth either. We'd like to have perfect harvests and, in rows, and we take things from the earth, but we have forgotten the reciprocity that old people used to have with the earth. So obviously at this time, I think things are starting to change also. But September is a month like that to, I think, help us reconnect deeply with our body, with the imperfection, or what we consider imperfection. And women, of course, through giving birth, through menstruation, are more attuned in general with that messiness, but it has to be hidden. So to make friend with our body and to make friend with the earth through natural sweetness, like the earth, the symbol of the earth is a circle. That's the geometric symbol of the earth, that cycle. So it's a time, if you look around, there's a lot of roundness, the fruit, the apple, the apples, pears, blackberries, everything that's coming out, there's a roundness and a natural sweetness. So it's a good time to come back to that. And especially in the summer with the heat we often turn to, ice creams that were not necessarily very good, in terms of sugar and everything. So it's a good time to re-establish the relationship to earth and to sweetness, to natural sweetness, and to our stomach and to our pancreas. That's one symbol also of September, or at one of the things that September can help us do, coming back to center. Remember those two models I showed you at the beginning, where the earth is at the center. We are earthlings. And so the laws of the earth are our laws. And however much we like transcendence, we also need to come back to the earth. I was reflecting while I was preparing for this gathering with you and this talk, you know, the story of the Buddha and the grieving mother, you know, the one who had lost a child, an infant, I believe in the story, and who was wild with grief and went to the Buddha, and the Buddha told her that indeed he would. She went to everybody to resuscitate her child, and he told her he would do so if she could bring back mustard seeds from households that had not been stricken by death. She goes, and of course, every household has been stricken by death. And so she comes back to the Buddha and becomes a disciple. So that story that I think Tejo shared recently, which is, you know, it's a classical story. And every time I discover new things about it. And this time, what struck me is that in the story, the Buddha did not say to that woman, don't grieve. You know, you should not feel grief. You know, you should be above grief. He doesn't even try to explain anything, to reason, to nothing. It just gives her a task. And in so doing, she herself, in her journey of grief, in which she has completely descended into her grief, did not transcend it, went into it, plunged into it. And the Buddha was with her in her grief. And so she goes to other households, and through her own journey of grief, the way I understand it, or at least one thing that came to me today, it's what opens her heart to compassion, to those who have experienced the same grief. And in so doing, in sharing, then she finds a type of serenity, a type of peace. And so I think that in that yin curve, it's a similar thing. We need to learn not to be afraid of our dark moments. When I see, you know, doctors who give antidepressants to adolescents because they go through their first love, you know, heartbreak, or, you know, they go through hard times, I think it's really sad, because of course I remember as an adolescent I had really some serious heartbreaks, and that doesn't mean we don't need to take care of them. We don't need to, but I think that we go too fast, so fast now to, okay, we should not feel, you know, we shouldn't be quote unquote depressed for any length of time. If we experience a death, it's okay to be down for a few days, maybe a month, maybe a couple of months, but then you know, if I had a friend who told me that, you know, 6 months after she lost a daughter, somebody told her, oh, you're still there, meaning you have not yet evolved, you know, you have not yet transcended that pain. And so we have a hard time with that messiness of grief, those ups and downs, that sadness, that nostalgia that comes with the fall. And it seems to me, you know, and we can open the discussion about that. It seems to me that our world, our civilization is in dire need of coming back to that yin aspect of life. And no, things are not perfect. And yes, we go through moments of depression. And yes, there are sad moments. And that we reach out, we can, of course, take care of ourselves. And there are many ways of doing so, natural ways of doing so, going into nature, getting the help of plants, but not reach out for the next bottle of chemicals in order to numb our feelings. And, you know, that wanting feeling, when we look at addiction, what is addiction? Which is, again, a good time. September, sweetness, earth, stomach, pancreas is a good time to work on addiction. What are we doing with our addictions? We try to keep the high. You know, we want the high and we don't want the down. So, and of course, the crazy thing is the down ends up being much worse. So the yin time where we are right now is a good time, I think, to go into nature and to breathe the wisdom of the earth. You know, there's this falling, but this falling is also what is giving us the abundance. You know, the trees are giving us, it's a time of generosity. The trees are not holding on to what they have, they give it, it's time to give, and they're ready for the next phase. And some of them are going to die, and some young ones are going to be born. So there's this deep, deep wisdom. And I don't mean that in an intellectual, even saying it doesn't quite convey what, you know, what I'd like to convey without words. And maybe through Zazen and meditation is where we can really embrace that. But this acceptance of letting go, and that, yes, we cannot always transcend, we cannot be always on top, we cannot have a perfect month, and accepting the yin of life, the ups and downs. And of course, what the earth is showing us with that time of balance of the equinox is that it's a good time of rest, a good time of contemplation, a good time of holding our breath a moment, or breathing deep, I should say, maybe, and evaluating what is worthwhile, what is it that needs to be kept. You know, that time of the first gray hair. It's time to define priorities for the rest of the season, the rest of the year, for the winter. Get ready, a good time to harvest, to take advantage of that bounty that's around us. Get back to balance in our health as much as we can through natural food and natural sweetness, sugar. Let go of some addictions or work on them, get help from that. So to me, that's what I wanted to share today, aujourd'hui. Today, the difficulty of transition falling from the height of summer is a good symbol from, getting from the high of anything. It can be summer, but it can be a celebration. It can be an exciting event. It can be a success. It can be anything has that downward, and even with a birth, I think sometimes we do women or families, I should say, not just women and men and families, a great disadvantage by saying, oh, birth, great, 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 like there's only the fun of it and the beauty of it. But we all know that a birth, and when, I do have people who talk to me about that, well, there's anxiety too. It's a big responsibility, financially, health-wise. Is my kid going to be healthy? Am I going to be able to provide for him, for her? So every aspect of life always has this yin and yang, and holding on to only to the transcending and not daring to plunge into the wisdom of the night or the season is a disadvantage that we do to ourselves, that we create for ourselves. So voila, maybe I'll open to discussion if there is any comments. This is basically what I wanted to share with you on September. Falling from the height of summer.
I've been reading a book very slowly, which I have right here, actually, because I've been reading it. It's called China Root. I don't know if you've read it.
No, I haven't.
It's about how the root of Buddhism, in China was Taoism.
Yes.
And it's about what you were just talking about. It initially talks about the two sides of Taoism being absence and presence, which is just what you're saying, and about how we live in presence, the world of the 10,000 things as they are realized in form, but that there's this huge, rich other side called absence, and that we try to ignore it or undervalue it, but that it was totally at the beginning of Buddhism, of Zen, and it talks about meditation and breath, and it has this wonderful part that I think it talks about just what you were talking about, that we resist the whole thing of absence, but that meditation allows us, and he presents it as a sequential thing. First, to sit with the cosmos lets us slow down our thoughts and get disengaged enough to do that, to sit with the cosmos, then to sit as the cosmos, and then there's only the cosmos. And that whole idea of the whole, not idea, but the whole experience of releasing all the stuff we're holding on to is what he's talking about, and it's what you were talking about too. So I thank you.
Thank you for sharing that.
Liliane, I really appreciate the perspective that you bring and the way that you talk so clearly, effective relationships to these. I guess what Anne was saying, or however we yin and yang, and culturally how we tend to uh, uh, favor one, like you said, at the detriment of the other, being really and really devaluing the yin. I really speak to that. And I'm in the mental health world and I work with clients. And so finding that I'm doing is helping people feel, you know, and it's so easy to drop into intellectualizing versus actually feeling and experiencing. I'm finding that there's not even that realization that there's a difference there between thinking and talking about feeling and actually feeling. And I know how easy it is for me to think I'm feeling, but really, and so I really just appreciate that reminder, and to that process, and the invitation to the feeling, experiencing the yin, the femininity that is so underappreciated and dominated by, in our culture, in our collective, by the other.
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your discussion today, and just personally, I'm kind of laughing to myself because I've been saying to others, winter is coming, and I've been busy trying to get activities lined up. I've joined a gym and trying to do all these things because I know in the winter I tend to, depression, dealing with addiction. And so you brought clarity to me today in recognizing that I've been busy trying to avoid just settling in and honoring the time for reflection instead of trying to, keep myself busy to avoid that time that I really need to just sit. So it's been a huge, a really interesting awakening and recognition of what I'm doing is not honoring my body or the season. So you've given me some good perspective, and a change of thinking of how to prepare for winter, not to avoid it, just let it happen. Prepare in a different way. So thank you.
Right. Well, you're welcome. I'm glad this spoke to you.
Also, in a couple other times when you were talking with Liliane, I was thinking about there's a kind of momentum, at least in my observation, is, that it's very difficult for people to sit the Buddha's enlightenment sesshin, because frequently people tell me at that time of year, or there's too much going on. And I really noticed that is the time I have to stop, because I get caught up in that momentum especially from about Thanksgiving to Christmas.
Right.
So interesting, because it seems almost like that vacation time around might be such a great opportunity to just kind of come together with your family and not worry about all the stuff you have to do and everything. But instead, we kind of go the opposite direction. And I was thinking, as you were speaking, maybe it even starts in September.
Right.
And then building towards Christmas.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So that's a really interesting perspective. And then, what kind of food should we be eating? But kind of my answer to that is go to the market.
Right, exactly. And right now you can't miss it. That is so beautiful. It's just so beautiful to see right now.
Yes.
And a lot of the diseases that we see in the fall are actually that resistance to go with the slowing down that we need to do. Our lungs, our stomach. I mean, we don't go with the rhythm. So, that's a time when we are supposed to go inward from a physical point of view. And going outward, it's like it creates a tension, and we get very easily imbalanced in our health.
Thank you. I think we're just about up to 11 o'clock now, but it's so helpful to me to consider these things at the beginning of these seasons. Sort of course, following you all along. And I do think about these things throughout the season, that the perspective that you bring. And it's helpful to me to remind, there's lots to do, but how do we bring about that restfulness?
Right. Well, I think that's the Sangha. We all need to remind one another, And so thank you for giving me that opportunity to remember as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
May the merit of this practice
Benefit all beings
benefit
and bring peace.
and bring peace.